I have a very unique opportunity today to visit with a man I was a big fan of his when he was competing, and now we get to tell his story both here on my podcast and as well on a documentary that's coming out. Bull rider Stetson Lawrence is featured in a documentary that's coming out. It's called Another 8 Seconds, and Stetson joins us. Stetson, thank you for your time and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So tell me about getting involved with this documentary. How did this thing come around?
After 805 sponsored me there, and they were kind of thinking about next thing to do, and they want to extend the ship another year or so. And then I was like, well, I can tell my story, and if you guys think it's a good enough film, we can do a documentary about it, and we'd go that way. And I wanted to tell my story and get it out there just to show people that in the way I grew up and that there's no limits out there. Like if you have a dream, shoot, go out there and chase it.
Yeah. This is being produced in cooperation with 805 Beer. Comes out this week. It will be available on YouTube on Thursday, as I understand it. Let me ask you kind of an overall question, and then we'll get into some of the specifics of some of the things that are featured. And I want to talk, obviously, about your career. Are there a couple of messages you want people to take away from what they're going to learn after they watch this?
Yeah, it's just lesson I want everybody to learn that no matter what you go through in life, if you try hard and you have a vision and a plan to get there, you can do it. And my story kind of tells that. Like I went through some hardships with losing my mom there, and then just overcoming that, and then just I didn't think I'd become a professional bull rider, but you know what? I just stuck to a plan, and shoot, it worked out, and I was actually pretty shocked, honestly.
Yeah. One of the things I'm sharing the trailer on my Facebook page, and there's a little bit about you losing your mom and your family background and all of that. That's devastating for a kid. You were young when you lost her, right?
Yes, I was just going into my senior year in high school, and yeah, she passed away on September 6th. And yeah, it was an odd deal, man. Like, honestly, at a high school rodeo in Minot, North Dakota, and on the way home, she took a last breath of air, and yeah, that was it. It was a heart failure, and it was nuts. Definitely turned my life upside down, because I was living a normal life as a child, I thought at the time, and it was a big learning curve, and had to grow up really quick. But I look back on it, and it made me who I am today, and I'm grateful I learned from it and took the steps I did take.
Yeah. You grew up a ranching kid. You grew up in rodeo. You competed in a lot of different events. You weren't just a bull rider, right?
No, yeah, we grew up in town, but every summer we went down to my grandparents in South Dakota, my dad's family, and my grandparents had a ranch down there in Whitehorse, South Dakota. So I ranched all summer, was on horseback for about 2.5 months every summer. So it was fun down there. And yeah, I did every event growing up. Shoot, I got a couple barrel racing buckles back in the day, pole bending. I wasn't very good at goat tying. I could never get off my horse going fast. I was never that great.
Well, you grew up to be a bull rider, so the idea was to stay on, not to get off. That's where I'm going to go.
Exactly.
If I'd have told you when you were a kid you'd have qualified for the PBR World Finals 9 times, would you have told me I was insane, or would you have said, yeah, that's going to happen?
But it told you you're insane. For sure.
When did it click? When did it happen? When did this unique skill that you developed that thrilled so many of us who were your fans, when did you really know you were that good?
Shoot. In 2014, actually, when it actually really clicked for me, and I started making a lot of money, and I started putting some work into getting my bull riding fundamentals down and stuff like that. And yeah, it was that year I think I won 10 touring pros.
Yeah.
And it was lights out. I won like 30,000 that year, and I thought I was rich as crap.
Never thought you'd see a 4D. And then
Exactly.
you won a whole lot more than that in several years after that. Tell me about, as you look back on your career, Stetson, talk about 2 or 3 of the biggest moments, of the biggest highlights for you in your career that featured 9 trips to the PBR World Finals.
Well, one of the big highlights was that winning Chicago my last season there in 22, just because I was going to be cut because I only had 3 events there at the end to get back in the top 35, and then I ultimately had to like either win it or do a top 3 finish, and I actually ended up winning that weekend, and that's probably one of my best performances of my career on the weekend. I rode everything that weekend, so I'd have to say that weekend. And one other thing that really stands out, and it's bull riding related because I was at the PBR, but I got to do PR in South Dakota, and I got to go up in the F-16 fighter jet, and that's just something I didn't even think that was possible of me getting in something like that and going up there. So that's just a crazy thing that I've got to do because of bull riding.
That's to me, that is always kind of the fun thing about, and with the PBR in particular, because the PBR opened up so many places to go with a Western sports event, bull riding. Chicago, New York, so many big venues in major urban areas that we maybe didn't think you'd ever see something like a bull riding event. And you get to do things like go up in an F-16. Those kinds of doors do not open to everybody.
Exactly. It's crazy to think that happened, and I was able to one guys that got to do that, and not every guy gets to do PR and get to go up in the F-16 fighter jet. So it was dang sure bucket list. I wasn't even on my bucket list because I didn't think that was possible, but heck yeah, now it is.
Yeah, no kidding. You really embraced, when you were competing and still today, your native heritage. And you mentioned doing PR in South Dakota. And as I think about that, I think about the opportunity you've had to outreach to a bunch of the next generation of Stetson Lawrences that might be out there in North and South Dakota and beyond. Talk about that a little bit and how important that was to you.
Oh, it's great to get out to those kids that want to be bull riders and anywhere in the Dakotas or actually anywhere. And being natives. I actually got to do a native school in South Dakota too, a bull riding school down there on the reservation. That was fun. And it's just great to get back to the kids in the community of rodeo that want to be involved in a sport that I truly loved. So I enjoy helping out the young kids now, and it's actually funny to see them and the way they think and how they perceive the bull riding world.
Are they looking at it differently today than you did once upon a time back in the day?
Oh yeah, it's blowing up a lot bigger today. They got big dreams and think they can do anything. Back when I was doing it, I didn't even dream of getting to where I am, but I didn't think all the bright lights and all that stuff was possible. Now the PBR has made that vision so clear for everybody. They can see it, and social media does help a lot with that too, I guess.
Let me ask you about, this might be Steve's dumb question to the interview, but I'm going to toss it out there. You mentioned earlier winning Chicago, and you were on the cut line. I think like every 2 weeks in the PBR, they do a cut, and the bottom 5 guys on the Unleash the Tour get moved down, and the top 5 guys from the Velocity Tour come up. I think is the way that might not be a perfect explanation, but it's close. How much?
Yeah.
Put a lot of pressure on you guys when you're competing, especially if you're kind of, floating around down there in the number 31, 35, whatever area of the standings.
Oh, it definitely puts some pressure on you, but the way I looked at it was a good pressure I needed, just because I needed to step my game up, and that was just a check in to make sure I'm competing at the level I need to compete at to be called a professional, I guess I would say. Hold you accountable, I guess.
You competed with and against JB Mooney, Silvano Alves, Joao Ricardo Vieira. There are dozens of names that I should be throwing in here that I'm not. You really compete. There are so many really talented young guys on this tour right now, the John Crimbers and the Casio Diaz's and those guys. But you competed in a very interesting era in the professional bull riders.
Yeah, I would like to think so. It was a tough era. There was a lot of greats out there, and I didn't win a world championship, but like you're saying, I competed with those guys every weekend, and it was something to say, I guess, because I talk to those college kids now, and it just blows their mind that I've was in the same locker room as them guys, or even have them guys in my phone number or my phone. It blows their mind. I'm like, well, yeah, I rode with them every weekend. They're just another guy.
What was a PBR locker room, right? Were there pranksters? Were there guys who were super quiet you never wanted to talk to before they got on? What? I don't know how much you want to say about that, but like, there may be stories that need to stay in the locker room for all I know. But what's life like in a PBR locker room at one of these big events?
Oh, it's back where I was going. There was always some pranksters. There's always some guys being quiet, but there's a mix for sure. But yeah, I know the one locker room story I could tell you, like back in, I think it was 2015, we're at the World Finals, and I put J.W. Harris's spurs in somebody's rosin after like we left that night, and so the spurs would like get all the way in the rosin because it'd melt in there. So then return, he put rosin in the top of my helmet and my chin strap on my forehead. Like, I didn't know it either. I went out and actually rode my bull, and I freaking went to take my helmet out to celebrate and ripped a big chunk of hair and rosin out of my head. Like, yeah, there was pranksters and all kinds of stuff going on in the locker room. But yeah, that was one thing that kind of stood out to me.
Oh, that's funny. Stetson, in the trailer to the documentary, Dr. Tandy Freeman is featured, and as a PBR bull rider, you probably got to know Tandy very well in your time competing. And they actually they show a picture of an X-ray, and I think it's your C6 and C7, if I remember right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just completely fractured. Riding bulls for a living is one of the most dangerous things you can do. And you had your share of injuries you had to overcome. How hard is it to overcome those things as a bull rider?
It's very tough to overcome the injuries just because you don't know how your body is going to hold up again. And then you also got the effect of it's put it in perspective for an average person. It's just like you got in a car wreck and you just got hurt, and they expect you to go out on I-35 here in Fort Worth and drive and not have any side effects from that, and not be cautious. It's tough to do, but you need to throw caution to the wind and go back to the basics and believe in your fundamentals, because if you start thinking about the what ifs and doubting yourself, that's when you're going to get yourself another wreck, I think. But it's a very mental game you need to play. And for me, the way I got to learn my own body and mind was the sooner I got on and got over it, the sooner I got back to being who I was and where I would be able to get to it, riding at my best ability as soon as possible.
I should know the answer to this, and I don't. Was that broken neck the thing that finally kind of ended your career? And tell me about that day when somebody looked at you and said, Stetson, I don't think you should ride anymore. What was that like?
That day I was in Arlington, Texas at the Global Cup, and the last bull I got on was in our Whoopa, and it wasn't that bad, that one. But the screwed up thing is that in the film, it shows the one in Milwaukee where I initially landed on my neck, which was in like late January, and the bull rider in me kept riding for a month because I wasn't going to go to the doctor after that. So then now I'm ahead in Arlington here at the last Cowboy Standing, and this is where I got my surgery done, and Tandy advised me to go get my neck checked out again to make sure there's nothing else wrong with the plate and 5 screws that's already in there or above it, just to double check and make sure all that's okay. But after Arlington, I stayed an extra day and went and seen the Dr. Dossett here in Dallas. And then, yeah, it was a, I don't know, that was an awkward and not a great day. I don't really go back and visit that day to remember it, to be honest with you, but it was, Dossett told me, and it was kind of like, I kind of knew it going in because my neck was pretty stiff and it wasn't as loose as it was before, and I could tell there's something wrong. And I held it together in the doctor's office, but once I hit that elevator, I started crying. Yeah. And then, I cried all the way back to my buddy's house. We were staying at, me and my girlfriend, Sierra. And then instantly, once we got back there, she didn't really know. She thought it was just another doctor visit. Okay, yeah, you're going to be good to go. Maybe take a week or 2 off. But got back there, and she was bawling, I was bawling. And then I was like, we need to get home. So I went home. We flew home, got the next flight to Montana. And it was a tearful 2 days. I probably cried. And then just like coming back from bull riding or anything like that, like, you need to pull yourself up off the couch and put your pants on and tackle this world just like anything else, you know?
Yeah. The documentary is called Another 8 Seconds, talking to Stetson Lawrence, 9 times a PBR World Finals qualifier. Stetson, there are 2 final questions I want to ask, and I was going to ask this one earlier when I asked about the guys you competed with, when I was talking about JV and Silvano and all those. You mentioned Whoopa. The bulls that you had a chance to get on and compete with week after week, to me, that is maybe as amazing a story in the PBR as the story of the bull riders. Those bulls are incredible.
Yeah, they're insane, and they're what makes the sport just as good as us riders. So they helped elevate it, and like you're saying, like that era of Bushwhacker, and you had, I don't know how many other ones I could list off, but yeah, like all of them, Asteroid, all them top name, Whoopa,
Cool Whip just tied Bushwhacker's record of 42 straight buck-offs the other day.
Oh, I know. I got on him in Arkansas, and I know why. He's heavy. He's strong. He's all there.
Did you ever get on Bushwhacker?
No, I didn't. I avoided him. I don't know. I just didn't desire to get on something like that. He was hard to ride, and I knew that. You
guys had a problem with him anyway. JB was always the one that was drafting him, right?
Yeah, like JB wanted him, so I was like, okay, that's fine with me.
Go for it.
Exactly.
Stetson, what are you doing today?
Me and Keisha are going to play some golf with some buddies, and yeah, just hanging out and enjoying the day.
Yeah. How are you spending your time? What are you doing for a living? This documentary has to have taken up a bunch of it.
I took up a good portion of it, but now I got a gutter business back at home and got that. And then I got the college, helping out with the college rodeo team. I got a couple of bull riding schools coming up here. I'm staying busy, and yeah, raising my little daughter Swayze. She's just now walking, so she keeps me busy enough.
I cannot wait to see the movie. It's a documentary. It comes out on YouTube on Thursday, May 16th. It's called Another 8 Seconds, featuring Stetson Lawrence. And last question, Stetson, I promise, is going back through, I know I kept you way longer than I asked you for, and I do that with everybody.
You're good.
Going back through your life and your history and your memories and looking at the old videos and talking about the passing of your mom and the injuries and some of the other things you went through. That must be a really interesting experience when you're making a movie about yourself, basically.
It was, I'll be honest, it's some good therapy to look back and see how far I did come, because honestly, I was still in the mindset of grinding stuff out and thinking I still need to work and not look back and see what I've accomplished already. And I did that, and now I'm like, well, you did do some good stuff, and like, be happy for what I've done.
You did more than some good stuff. You did a lot of good stuff. How closely are you following the PBR now? The World Finals has this unique format this year with the elimination rounds and the Ride for Redemption and everything they're doing. And it seems to me that there is a youth invasion happening in the professional bull riders right now. Casio Diaz is 22. John Crimber is 18. Caden Loud just won that elimination round. He's 19 or 20. How close are you following all of that?
I don't follow it super close, but I'm following them, and it's exciting to see all those young guys coming up, and it makes the sport exciting again. And like, those guys are some hands. It's exciting to see, and it makes somebody like me want to tune in and watch, because you're going to see something spectacular.
Yeah, Stetson, congratulations on everything. Thank you so much for your time. I told Stetson before we started, Stetson's a guy I always wanted to meet and shake hands with in person. I never had the opportunity, and I really enjoyed the last 25 minutes of this interview, Stetson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Stetson Lawrence. The movie is a documentary. It's called Another 8 Seconds, from 805 Films and Stetson's sponsor, which is 805 Beer, and it comes out on YouTube on Thursday. Stetson Lawrence, travel safe and continued success.
Thank you, sir.